Planning often overlooked in South Africa, nearly 70% of people are dying without a valid will. That's according to the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. The issue made headlines when the Mpumalanga High Court froze the pension. It amounted to nearly 45 million rand of the late former Deputy President David Mabuza due to questions over his estate. Our business reporter Ntokozo Khumalo has been looking into this, joins us now from Sandton after starting the day in Daveyton. And Ntokozo, you've been speaking to various people about this. What have you found?
Good afternoon, Stephen. Well, the one thing that I did find is that estate planning really is in crisis points in some communities across the country. So I was in Daveyton where I spoke to two families who have had to write not for sale on their properties as those squabbles come about because the parents or grandparents who left the home for them did not leave a will. So those issues of then houses being sold without family members knowing are some of the stories that we did get out of Daveyton. And one of the ladies that I spoke to, Mary, there being the child after her father married her stepmother, and then the stepdaughter being the one to actually sell the house, but talking to some of the issues that are there when it comes to the misconceptions around estate planning and the importance of just having a will as a starting point. But I do have Zola Mbatha here with me from Legacy Lesibaya. Thank you so much for talking to us. And actually, Mary is one of the ladies that you are assisting, a sad story that she told. And myself and Lesejo, the camera operator, we're trying to wrap our minds around how that issue is legal. The house being her grandparents, given over to her father getting remarried to the stepmother's daughter, then selling the house. Help us understand the legality there.
Yeah, so thank you, Sister Gozo. Okay, perfect. So this is basically almost a duplication of the Dlamini case that we spoke of and was decided last year, October. The grandfather had obviously owned the house as a family home, and the dad put it in his name alone, which is not a problem. The first problem is that he then went to go pay lobola. We don't know if the dad understood that paying lobola amounts to a marriage in committal property or not. And then the second problem is that even after getting married in committal property, he failed to do a last will and testament. Now, how this problem has come about with Mary, it is legal. The eviction that Mary is facing is very legal. What makes it legal is an act called Interstate Succession Act. Now, people don't understand the consequence of not doing a will is that your estate will be decided upon by an act called interstate succession. That's the one. What I find generally when I did the video for Mary and I got 200,000 views is that people think just because she is biologically related to her father, she's entitled to the home, and that's not the case. Interstate succession says if you pass away without a last will and testament, the act takes over. It says if you have a wife only, your entire estate goes to your wife. If you have children only, your entire estate goes to your children. But if you have a wife and children, there is a formula, CC. And this formula says the wife, if it is in committal property, will get half of the house. We're talking about Mary's house now. That belonged to her grandfather. It has come to ownership to her father, and he got married in committal property while being an owner. This is what's causing this. He then didn't do a will, which then left half of the house to the wife because of the marriage, and then the other half, he then could have at least have done a will saying, my half then stays with Mary. He failed to do that, which then the formula of interstate succession took over, which says 250,000 rands value of that estate must first go to the wife before the children get changed. And Mary's grandfather's house is valued at 200,000. So the wife got the whole house. The wife didn't do anything wrong. She just simply passed away. It is the daughter of the wife who also didn't do anything illegal. But what she did that we can say is very it lacks Ubuntu. She sold the house without telling Mary, even though she's aware Mary is living in that house after having given birth. Not only did she do that, she intentionally wanted Mary to be surprised by getting a copy of the title deed from the deeds office using a conveyancer, which is about a 2,000 rand cost. It's legal, it's lawful. Now she has a copy of the title deed, she has the letter of authority over her mother's estate, she thereby has the authority to sell the house, which is what she's done. Mary is right now not getting evicted by the stepdaughter. She's getting evicted by the person who bought this property, not knowing Mary's history. And he is in his rightful path to evict her. So Mary does need help. She basically, the only way to help Mary now is for her to get a new house.
Which is difficult, and I think that is the points that she was saying to me is I grew up in this house, I've lived in this house my whole life.
Right.
We have children now that are in this house, which we did see, and she was saying that the owner had given her the option to then live in the garage, giving her that time. But as you said, that bamboozled, because as we were leaving, other community members, Zola, were telling us that in Davidson it's an increasing challenge around specifically estate planning when it comes to the houses that were owned by grandmothers. And we saw one where the house has even lost value now. There's no windows, there's no roof, it's just literally sitting on that piece of land. What is it, the misconceptions that we have, particularly as people of color, when it comes to the importance of estate planning, so that we don't see Mary and others as well being homeless when they had a family home all along?
Yeah, I'm very happy you asked this question, because I actually genuinely believe homelessness in South Africa is increasing as a result of lack of estate planning. Not having a last will and testament means you have failed to protect your family home. A will protects your assets for the benefit of your children. So it's a simple document. Every year in South Africa in September is Free Wills Month. There are institutions that are drafting wills for free. Banks are drafting wills for free. The only trick with the banks, which is why people are not wanting to go there, is they make themselves the executor. And once you have passed away, the only way your children can remove the bank as an executor is through a high court application. And, so then I advise people, you can proceed to use the banks, but ensure and insist that you have a co-executor who is a family member that you trust. Then the responsibility will be shared between the bank and that co-executor, and that person can take the estate away from the bank. And also it helps because when the banks find that an estate only has a family home, they generally tend to renounce, which is what people don't know. Banks walk away from estates that only have a family home because they don't have cash to administer the estate. Once they do that, it almost as if it reverts to interstate in where you're having to choose the executor. So do your last wills and testament, have family meetings. When you're getting to a point of your life where you need to pay lobola and you are a beneficiary of a family home, please do an anti-nuptial contract. Get married out of communal property, because seemingly the only asset that's going to be in this joint estate is an asset that belongs to Nkulu.
Is the family home. Zola, before I let you go, a lot of education, of course, needed. Former Deputy President David Mabuza, misconceptions around, is it the pension fund or living annuity? Quickly, help us clarify that.
Well, yes, I do say the narrative of the Didi Mabuza matter was holistically owned by media journalists, and so it's impossible to clarify in a way that court documents would. And so as a result of the first court appearance, it is very clear now that it is actually a living annuity. So there is an estate that's regulated by a will, there is a pension that's regulated by Section 37C, and then there is a living annuity, which is the same as a policy. So which means the person can choose their beneficiary. It doesn't have to be a spouse, doesn't have to be a family member. And in this case, it is definitely a living annuity regulated by the Long-Term Insurance Act.
Zola, thank you so much. We have run out of time. I suppose a lot, Stephen, that could be discussed when it comes to issues of estate planning and some of the misinformation or education that still needs to be spread by people such as Zola Mbatha. So we will have a little bit more on that story or the stories that we got out of Davidson when it comes to estate planning issues, specifically around family homes, as then look at trusts as another option for estate planning once you've taken that step of just setting up a will. Stephen.
Ntokozo Khumalo, thank you very much indeed. So easy, of course, to set up a will. All you need to do is write it all down and have a witness. Ntokozo, thank you.